Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you how OBJ is at a turning point in his career.
And I'm Colin Cowherd. If you think Floyd Mayweather isn't getting into the octagon with Conor McGregor, think again. Speak for yourself on a Monday. Starts right now. It's happening.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm actually happy it's Monday. All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by some NBA royalty. Who wrote this? Royalty. Dante Jones and Jim Jackson. Let's talk some hoops. We start with a wild weekend in the NBA. The Sixers are now officially the hottest team out there, extending their win streak to 14 after two big wins. Friday, they held off a furious comeback by LeBron and the Cavaliers, and yesterday, they beat the Mavs. Philly is now the 3 seed in the East. The Cavaliers are 4th. Colin, do you think the Sixers can dethrone LeBron in the East?
No, not a chance, because the playoffs are different than the regular season for two reasons. In the playoffs, everybody's equally rested and equally vested. All the games count. Saturday night, the Rockets play a game. They don't play two of their good guys off the bench. OKC had to win. The regular season, especially at the end of the season, you got teams tanking, you got veteran teams resting players, you have young teams like the Sixers that are trying to prove a point. Once you get into the playoffs, it becomes a half-court game. You don't get the freebies. The young teams can't just energy you and win games. So I think there's going to be a reality check. They're better than I thought. They're better faster than I thought, but the reality check's coming.
You said no chance, and I got to push back against that. I'm done second-guessing LeBron James, so I'm not going to go out on a limb and predict Philly's going to dethrone them. But do they have a chance? You did watch that game.
Yeah.
They got down by 30 points, and as great as the comeback was, getting down by 30 to Philadelphia with no Joel Embiid on the court, I don't know. This Sixers team is so young that it might be an advantage because they don't have any real respect or reverence for LeBron James because they don't know any better. They're young. And so I think they have a chance. And I want you to define no chance. Is that means it's over in 5?
No, it means they're not going to beat LeBron 4 times in 2 weeks. There's no way. Now, again, I'll say it. They're great for the league. I mean, the Eastern Conference is LeBron and the broken-down Celtics. I like their story. Man, these are kids. These are babies. You know how the NBA works.
That could be good.
Yeah. It could be, but it's a couple different things I think you have to look at. Let's look at the path. Because if Philly is now in the 3rd seed, their first round is against Miami, a team that they split 2-2 against. They lost both games in Miami. This is a team that likes to slow down the pace.
Yes.
So now Philly is going to have to figure out how to navigate its way through an early playoff series. First time going there. Of course, you have J.J. Redick, who's been there. But from a coaching staff and your main players, they don't know yet. So they're going to have to grind themselves out through a tough Miami team, maybe get to the second, and then maybe seek a Cleveland team. So before they even get there, we'll get a real good test to see if they're ready to even pose a serious threat in the Eastern Conference Finals.
He says no chance. What chance do you say?
I say it's intriguing. I don't think they can push them because a couple things happen. Coaching comes in the situation. Coaching during the regular season, you manage minutes, you manage egos, you manage injuries. Once you get to the playoffs, this is when the X's and O's come into effect.
Right.
It's ways that I can kind of take Ben Simmons out of the game and make him less effective, and I can make other players have to make plays. They don't have other playmakers. So when it comes from a coaching perspective, I can kind of limit Ben Simmons' effectiveness as much in the playoffs, more so during the regular season. So I give the advantage mostly to Cleveland. If they were to play, I see 4. They probably get a game or two, 4-2.
I see 4-1, so we're in 5. But I'm going to speak to your point because I know that the Cavs are only playing with a limited playbook and limited adjustments at this point in time. Championship-level teams have the advantage to have championship-level packages. So right now, I'm only dealing on my regular season package and my regular season rotations and my regular season adjustments. I don't expose myself my championship package, because at that point in time, you can use what we did in the regular season and know what we're going to adjust and how we're going to figure you out for the playoffs. So I just deal with what our basic stuff is. And when it comes times in the playoffs, now I have adjustments and ways to limit Ben Simmons and limit their hold attack. But I'm only going to use that when needed. Right now, that game wasn't needed. 3 or 4, it is what it is. So, and the other point of why it's going to be 4-1 is because youth, inexperience, and attention to detail. They've never had to play possession basketball, Playoffs is all about each possession. One possession can win or lose a game, as you know. So these guys are just playing in the flow of the game, having fun, using the crowd, using their emotions, just having a normal basketball game. The playoffs, the intensity level goes up, the physicality goes up, the attention to detail goes up, and their youth is going to be their Achilles heel at that point in time.
Didn't you watch Friday?
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter, how bad was Philly's execution? I mean, that was a young...
And that's coming over, you thinking about at the championship level in the Eastern Conference Finals when it's heightened. Keep in mind, too, your majority ball handler is Ben Simmons. His free throw shooting in this 14-game win streak has gone down from 55% down to 45, okay? So now you talk about the pressure of playing and performing against LeBron James, and now your major ball handler is going to get fouled and have to get to the free throw line and convert on those free throws at critical situations. So it's some things still there Philly is missing in regards to taking down the Cleveland Cavs.
That's not a full representation of the Cavs team, their playoff team. They're missing 2 point guards and one of their shooters. So they have a limited roster, and then it's just not the LeBron James you're going to see in the playoffs. Like, I think he's operating at a 75% capacity. I've seen him turn it up when it comes regular season to playoffs.
Especially on defense.
It's especially his attention to detail, just on a full game basis, because you're playing every game as your last. When you have 82 games ahead of you, it's just human nature to just kind of make your way through games and try to do enough to win a fair amount of games, or your fair share of what is necessary, because you have to play into June. These kids don't know what it feels like to play into June. That's a whole nother grind.
There's a new boss in town at Buffalo Wild Wings, and he deals in bacon. It's the Bacon Boss Burger, featuring bacon 3 different ways and a blanket of white cheese sauce. And he's joined by other new favorites like the smothered cheesesteak quesadilla, sweet chili shrimp, and Alaska cod classic. All pair perfectly with a Sam 76, a fruity ale with the crisp finish of a lager. Hurry in today and try them all before they're gone at Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports, available for a limited time while supplies last. Please drink responsibly.
Let's move to the West, where the Warriors have lost 9 of their last 16 since Steph Curry's latest injury problems began. That's wild. After Thursday's blowout loss to the Pacers, the coach Steve Kerr said he was, quote, embarrassed by the team's lack of effort. Kevin Durant openly disagreed, saying he feels the team does care about playing well. One look at the stats, and you can see even when KD plays his best, doesn't make a lick of difference. This season, Durant's 5 highest scoring games result in 5 losses for the Warriors. Whitlock, are you losing a level of respect for KD?
No, because my level of respect for KD has never been as high as everyone else's. I go back to, and I'm not trying to be unfair, and I'm not trying to be divisive or polarizing, but again, I'm really not. I'm not, but I just want to say that. Okay. I want to say this. I never liked his mama sitting courtside in OKC.
Why not?
And I was because again, at some point you become a man and mama moves to the suites or she watches at home. And so again, he's a bit of a mama's boy. And again, I've always called him Hug Life. And so again, all of this sounds like a total disrespect for Kevin Durant, but it's not. It's just, to me, I feel like I've always had him in perspective. He's not an alpha. And again, when you go look at their record without Steph Curry in Golden State. No, I think he's like 12-8 overall.
Yeah.
And then when Steph plays without KD, they're 20-0. So again, one of these guys is an alpha male, leader, championship. One guy, to me, isn't.
You know, when you first said that a couple years ago when we started the show,
yeah.
I still laughed at Hug Life, but I was like, I don't know. But I will say this. This is one of these where I've evolved listening to you. There was the preseason tats. Remember that?
Yeah.
We were like,
Rick James. And
huge. Then there was the burner account. Then there's this Rasheed Wallace level of ejections. Then there's rabbit ears. I mean, he responds to everything. And it's the drip, drip, drip effect. He's a great talent. But not every great talent has Magic Johnson's ability to tune stuff out, lead, be in the biggest city, come right into the league. I mean, he struggled at times in OKC. Now he goes to Golden State, and when Steph's not there, he's the first guy that gets asked questions. I think with me, I look at Kevin and I think great all-time talent, But to your point, there is a little alpha DNA missing.
Well, I agree in that case. He's not an alpha. I don't think Steph's an alpha either. However, Steph's game is better suited for that style of play and for their game as the Golden State Warriors. But KD is put in a position where he helps them. He's not fitted for that. And when Steph is out, the spacing is not there. He has to deal with a different look. He can just play one-on-one. It's a different capacity. He's not making people better. Yeah. When Steph is there, now it's just open court. He tends to look a little better, and it's a little bit easier for him. So it's kind of, you can't compare the impact on both of them, but he already said he doesn't want to be a leader. He's not a leader. And he's used to hunting, not being the hunted. Yeah. And that's a different perspective, and that's a different personality you have to have, different characteristics you have to have as a basketball player. The first time him being the hunted, he's kind of unraveling a little bit.
Yeah. Dante, you by playing, you play against guys, and you kind of get a sense and feel of their personality, who they are right away. Whether he can take the pressure, whether you can get up into him, whether he'll fold, whether he is an alpha male, whether his game is fitted for or suited for a championship type of run, can be a leader. Kevin Durant has always been the type that is a great scorer. From a leader's perspective, is more quiet, laid back. I think he's fighting the perception because we put so much on LeBron on how he leads, on how he encompasses the team, and he brings people into the fold. So our expectations for Kevin Durant, since you're the second best player in the world, you should be able to do the same. It's not. Steph Curry is so different because he's a point guard. His ability to control tempo. Look, when he plays, they're first in pace. When he doesn't play, they're 14th. What did I tell you? The game changes because the ball is in his hands. So he's able to manipulate defenses a lot differently than a Kevin Durant, than even a LeBron James. LeBron is the prototypical point forward, per se, that you want to build off of. Everybody can't do that. Everybody can't be an alpha. I don't care who it is, who came through. Dominique, as great as he was, he's an alpha male, but at the same time, he didn't bring his team. He could only do one thing, and he did that exquisitely. Kevin Durant is kind of the same thing. He picked up his defense, picked up his rebound, but we got to keep him in his spot where he's at. Right. He's not a LeBron. He's not a Steph in regards to controlling the team, but he is who he is, and he's a valuable asset to that Golden State team.
Yeah. Is any of that a reduction in respect for Kevin Durant in the opinion you had of him 2 years ago as to now?
No, because he's still doing what he's doing. He's still scoring points. My expectation with him was, are you going to be held accountable and step up when it counts? That's my thing. I think when he was in OKC, the accountability of lack thereof hurt that OKC team. And I think he's with a Draymond Green and with the Steve Kerr, a lot of that stuff is taken care of. So my thought process is still the same on Kevin Durant.
Yeah, two years ago, he was a matchup nightmare. That's what he is then, and that's what he is now. He's never been a leader. He's never made people better. His presence makes you better because he's a weapon out there and you have to pay attention to him, but he doesn't make plays for others. That's never what he's had to do, never what he's done. He's gotten assists, but you're playing with two of the best shooters in the NBA. You have no choice but to get assists. Like, that's just a given. When you pass them the ball, they shoot at a high clip and they make shots. So he's not making plays. He's not creating shots for other people. He's just the matchup nightmare at 7 feet tall. I can shoot better than you. I can get to a spot. I can get to the back. I can do everything. I'm just a one-on-one matchup nightmare. I'm a scorer. I'm not a leader, but I'm a disaster to have to guard. That's it.
Welcome back. Jim Jackson is here. Let's talk some golf. Guy can play. To that wild finish at the Masters where Patrick Reed managed to hold off charges from Ricky Fowler and Jordan Spieth and claim his first career major. But we all know the big story was at the other end of the leaderboard. Tiger Woods finished in a tie for 32nd, 16 behind the winner. Whitlock, did the weekend make you feel better or worse about Tiger's comeback?
It made me feel a little bit worse, but it was really what I expected, Colin. I said last week or a couple weeks ago when they started talking about Tiger being the favorite to win the Masters, that's crazy. I think we're underestimating the young guys who have been waiting for the Tiger impact to come and that they were going to step up. And I think if you looked at the young guys, from Ricky Fowler to Patrick Reed to Jordan Spieth to Justin Thomas to Dustin Johnson, all these, Jason, they all finished ahead of Tiger Woods. Right. And so that spotlight that Tiger brings made them all elevate their play. And that's what I think Vegas was underestimating and people were underestimating. Tiger Woods is back. Well, that's good for golf, but I also think the young guys think that's good for us too.
No, you predicted that. Let me just throw this out there, because I know you and Jimmy you guys will sit and watch golf for 8 hours.
Long.
Okay. Golf has increasingly become a young man's game. Some of that's Tiger created this just large army of young guys in great shape. Guys over 40 aren't winning much. They're not anymore. Well, Tiger's 40-something, and I could argue his body is 52. So when I watch Tiger, I see rounds and I see moments. But then on Saturday, his irons give out. And then on Sunday, finally gets it together, best round, no pressure. But golf has really become a young man's game, and Tiger's no longer a young man.
Yeah, because when Tiger came in, I think he was the young gun, and no one else could hit it as far as be as creative. So he was an anomaly. He stood out. I think also, you're talking about his body giving out, I think it's more mental with Tiger too. Way more mental. I looked at it when Tiger came back from the incident with his wife, and he didn't want to play in the Phoenix Open or a lot of the early tournaments. To me, that gave an indication that mentally he wasn't strong enough to come back, because those events weren't safe like Augusta. At Augusta, the murmur is going to be a little bit lower. You don't hear the crowd. At the Phoenix Opens, everything is rambunctious. You can hear people talking. So Tiger used to block all of that out, but now he's hearing that stuff while he's playing. So from a mental perspective, I don't care how many swing changes, golf coaches he goes through, if his mental aspect, which was one of the greatest attributes he had as a golfer, is not in the right place, the rest is not going to be there. That's why you see the fluctuation in his play. He's playing well one day. Can he get through a weekend? He's putting the ball well. The next day he's not. His irons are not on. A lot of it with Tiger is mental. So my expectation was, I was hoping my two guys I bet on, Justin Thomas and Jon Rahm, won. But inside, I was pulling a little bit for Tiger just to place in the top 10. But I think he has a long way to go mentally.
I want to piggyback off both of you all's points and hopefully try to tie them together. Look, man, when you're in your 40s, you have more problems in your life. You have more responsibilities. And so I watched this weekend, and I didn't think Tiger's problems were remotely physical. Again, I think they're mental, as Jim is saying, because he opened up, I think it was either Friday or whatever, beautiful drive on the first tee, 92 yards from the hole. And I'm like, oh, Tiger's in perfect place in the middle of the fairway, went long over the green. And I was like, that's mental. That's not physical. For 92 yards, Tiger Woods, he can do that in his sleep. It's mental. And so with his irons and just judging distance and wind, and then I saw indecisiveness, changing clubs, stepping away from his shot and throwing more grass in the air, staring off into the gallery. You said something, and it was all just a distracted Tiger Woods. And I'm just telling these young kids, man, many of them don't have the responsibilities. Tiger's got 2 kids. He's been through a divorce, everything. And so, to me, golf has never been a young person, a 40-year-old's game. It's always been a young person's game. The less distracted you are, the less responsibility you have, the freer your mind is just to focus on the game. So, to me, what surprised me is Tiger looked exactly like Phil Mickelson this weekend. And they're around the same age. Yep. But you would think, I was like, well, one guy's Tiger Woods and one guy's Phil Mickelson. Tiger should look better than Phil. Right. He didn't. That's what was disappointing to me.
That's interesting.
That's a good point. Now, the mantra for golf is in great hands because of the young guys. But does it have the intrigue that we've had with Tiger? See, the thing about Tiger, when he came in, he had a story. Something that the novice golf fan, I don't care if you didn't play golf, on Sunday you tuned in. Even with the great young guns, the ratings reflect that
people
still
Did you see the galleries? Who are they following?
That's what I'm saying.
But
Tiger.
But just understand this. Even with Tiger finishing in the middle of the pack, 32nd, the ratings were up 14%. Right. You don't, again, it would be great to have a full dose of Tiger, but just a little bit of Tiger goes a long way. Again, because what Jordan Spieth did yesterday and almost coming back, again, I believe that's Tiger Woods. I think Tiger has some responsibility for that. He just adds so much more energy to a golf event, and I think it's just going to take those young guys to a different level. That's what I thought we saw. All right, welcome back. Joining us now is Hall of Famer Ray Lewis and the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's talk some football. To the big story in the NFL today, wide receiver and chronic complainer Odell Beckham Jr. reported for the first day of the Giants' offseason workout. This comes after weeks of rumors that the Giants were looking to trade Beckham. Earlier today on The Herd, Ray Lewis told Colin the advice he'd give the wide receiver.
Where there's no God, there's chaos. Odell has removed God from his life. This is a kid that grew up under the covenant of who God really is. And everything that he's doing, he's crying out for help. We have a lot of people reporting about him, but it's always been the duty of elders to go back to help them. So that's why I raised my hand. And I told him, I'm here, whatever you need. Well, it's not what he said. It was the commitment he started to make. So we started to make those phone calls. We started to have conversation. And then I started to see he started to distance himself a little more, and a little more. And the moment, just listen to me, Colin, I don't care about religion. I'm talking about a foundation. When your foundation is disturbed, when everything you're doing is the opposite of what's got you to this place, then you're making your own bed hard.
All right, obviously Ray is here, and we're going to get to Ray in a second. You said a mouthful today on The Herd. I want to start with you, though, Colin. How did Ray's comments land to you, fair or unfair?
No, I didn't. I took him as more. I almost took him as a business, not even spiritual. I took him as, I just had this conversation with my wife literally last night. I said, choices equal anxiety. Anxiety in life equals chaos. And I said, a simpler life full of basic rules is a happier life. Odell Beckham, so when you talked, I took it as what Ray's saying is, are you committed? A house has a roof and window. Where's the foundation? The Rams vetted him, I was told, a week ago and said, we're out. Now, they took in Ndamukong Suh and Marcus, and they're like, we're out. So the way it landed for me was, he's just saying, there's some chaos going on. He's out every night. He's hanging with the wrong peeps. He's hanging with music stars. Well, that's not what Julio Jones is doing. That's not what Tom Brady's doing. That's not what Russell Wilson, that's not what Doug Baldwin's doing. So I didn't take them as, metaphorically, I took them, it was just about houses have foundations. And every great athlete, Kobe Bryant's greatness didn't start with a jumper, it started with a gym. It became the jumper, which became the championship. So I understood it.
All right, Jason, as the representative of the blogosphere.
Oh, geez.
Seriously.
That's a great party to represent. Thank you, Whitlock.
How do you think Ray's comments landed in the blogosphere? And do you, fair or unfair, his comments?
I personally think they're fair. We posted it on the big lead. I ran into Ray in the hall, and he came at me, and I ducked. But no, I'm kidding. And I instantly talked to our guys. I was like, Ray is right. He's 1,000% right. What is Odell Beckham's foundation? And I told my guys the story of the scorpion and the frog, and they know it. I'm sure you know it well.
Absolutely.
Scorpion needs a ride across the river. Frog says, I'm not giving you a ride. You're going to sting me. That's what you do. Why would I sting you, says the scorpion. We'll both die. Frog says, oh, you know what? I'll give him a ride. What happens halfway across the river? Scorpion stings the frog, and they both die. As the frog's going down, geez, why'd you do that? We're going to die. And the scorpion says, that's who I am. That's what I do. This is what Odell Beckham does, right? He complains. He fights kicking nets. He argues with teammates. He fights on the field. He shows up late. He wants to go on a boat trip. This is what he does, right? His foundation is a wreck. Until he fixes that, he's going to be a problem for any team.
Ray, before you go, I just want to say this, and then we're coming to you. I heard the comments, and they struck a chord with me because we all go through this fight that Odell is going through. We all want to tiptoe away from our foundation. And then you get to be 50, my age, you realize no foundation, no success.
No success.
And so I understand what you were saying, and I understand Odell's struggle, but we want to give you an opportunity to either clarify or just double down on your comment.
No, there's no clarification now. I'm never clarifying when I'm talking about God, right? That's why I think we confuse so much, man. Like, people try to take comments and they try to twist them. I am more invested in this young man than anybody who's talking about him. Ask him himself how many phone calls we've had since his rookie year. This just ain't me just talking now. That's like a child to me. Listen, guys, we have a duty. And a lot of leaders are not stepping up to that duty. Guess why? They want to be popular on social media. But everybody's blogging. But nobody is talking about put God back first. Nobody is talking about, you want to know what I was talking about earlier? I'm talking about the simple foundation. The foundation of commitment. Of when you decide to read your Bible together. That's integrity. Character is me telling this young man, baby boy, listen, man. Everybody should not be talking about you like this. I'm only here to help you, OB. And everybody else who's talking about this kid, it bothers me so much because so many people saying they know so much about him and have never had one phone call with him. I talked to this kid as my child. I get it. We're all of these people on TVs, man, and we're just crucifying people and disappointing in them. But our duty is to get on here to help them, to give them a way out.
So did he initially embrace?
He reached out to me first. This is how the relationship started. OBJ reached out to me first and said, big bro, I need you. And I said, I'm here, baby, whatever you need. And we started to work through these things since his rookie year. We started to work through these things. And I tell my kids this all the time. I tell parents this all the time. Stop letting social media parent your kids. We cannot keep going down this road. So just, let me just make sure I'm clear with this. I don't live to be liked. My why in life will never change. My why I do what I do, because I'm trying to bring more souls back to Christ that's lost. We are lost. We got schools being shot up. We got churches being shot up. This is a different call, gentlemen. And everybody want to fight these nitpicking things. There's a bigger fight. We have to reintroduce God back to our communities. We have to reintroduce God back to our children and in schools. It hurts me, it pains me that everybody always wants to start war. I live with this boy. I'm with him. But all these other people want to talk. Ask them how many times they're going to be there to support him instead of criticize him.
One of the great points you made in your interview with Colin was like, okay, now you look up and OBJ's running around with Justin Timberlake and Justin Bieber and people that have nothing to do with football. And that's where part of my criticism with Colin Kaepernick has come from in terms of like, well, where are the football people at? Where are the people that are in your profession? Why aren't they closest to you? And particularly the elder guys that you're talking about, why can't I see you pictured with those guys and those are your closest advisors rather than people who have nothing to do with football and really are using you to build up their own brand or celebrity? It just seems like the young guys have so much that they conclude football's not enough.
Where's Eli Manning? He's won 2 Super Bowls. He can't pick up a phone and call Odell Beckham and say, hey, let's come hang out. Let's get together.
We just watched that Tom versus Time documentary.
Yeah.
Almost to a fault, we were saying, man, Tom needs to get a life. He's on foot. But that's why he's the greatest.
Yeah.
And by the way, Kobe Bryant would be in his hotel room by himself and at the gym all day. To be really great, you don't have much of a social life. If you want, all the guys with great social lives aren't great. That's the way it works.
Remember this. When OBJ career is done, all of the people who's supposed to be for him will be the ones that say, I told you so. And I'm sick of these young kids throwing away not only millions of dollars, but their legacy. My life changed at 24 years old. All right? I learned about people. That's why the good book says, put your trust in no man. Because I learned about people on both sides of it. And when I see these kids, I'm answering, I promise you, 150 or more phone calls or texts a day, trying to help people figure it out. And the one thing I keep going back to is your foundation.
Ray, one of the things you just said is powerful that I want to clarify because I think some people will, well, Ray was involved in that situation in Atlanta. And what I just heard was, yes, I was, and I'm trying to show these other guys how they can never be in that situation.
Grow up. Everybody gonna find themselves going through something. But don't you ever let nobody put you back there. Right? Your resume speaks for itself. Check my resume since then. But better yet, check the people that I've sent towards Christ. See, that's what this talent, this money, all the things that we're doing. Remember, guys, why we're here. We're here for one reason, to love thy neighbors thyself, to introduce somebody to the love of God and understanding what God is trying to do in our lives. And right now, the narrative is different. And we got to change the narrative. We got to change the narrative, Jimmy.
All right, welcome back. Interesting stuff. Joining us now, UFC Fox analyst and all-around good guy, Kenny Florian. His expertise to an interesting situation brewing in the UFC. After McGregor went into rampage mode last week, there was a lot of talk that his UFC career would be over. Well, it doesn't seem like it is. President Dana White has not ruled out the possibility of a McGregor-Mayweather rematch, this time in the octagon. Floyd isn't ruling it out either.
Retirement has been great, but as you know, and everybody know, I go in retirement, I come back. I go in retirement, I come back. Is it possible that I come back? Yes, but if I do come back, it has to be in the octagon. I spoke with Showtime, I spoke with CBS. If we can get together with Dana White and the UFC to make a mega fight happen, one fight, it could be against Conor McGregor. We don't know.
All right, Whitlock, you actually think we'll see Floyd fight Conor in the octagon?
I've said it from the outset. Yes, it is the money team. It is not the integrity team. And so Floyd Mayweather will do whatever is necessary to make more money. And when I look at Dana White going from, this is the worst thing that's ever happened, the Conor McGregor blow up before UFC 223. It's the worst thing that's ever happened. It's disgusting. It's criminal. To, well, it's not that bad. And hell, Conor may be fighting next weekend. Who knows? That, to me, is about a cash register ringing. And Dana wants Floyd in the octagon with Conor McGregor. That's going to make the cash register ring again. Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
I think Dana initially, as the guy running this sport in a commissioner role, had to come out and say this is awful. And then I think Dana listened to the voices in radio and TV, and we were all going, well, it did make us talk about Conor. And I think Dana came in today and his quote was, I've seen worse in other sports. To your point is, if these two fought Friday, I'm not going out. I'm watching the fight. And I would say, and I say this respectfully about the UFC, boxing and the UFC are as popular as their stars. There's a little star void right now, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And Conor is as big as it gets. He's one of the few guys who have transcended the sport, taken it to the next level. Everybody knows who Conor McGregor is. If you stop Conor from being able to fight, he's going to go and do something else. He'll go back and do another boxing match or whatever. He brings in hundreds of millions of dollars for the sport. I mean, it's hard to say no to that guy.
Yeah. My issue, Kenny, what I would push back against Conor, this whole ultimate bad boy in all of sports. If the end game is Floyd, I don't think that's the best brand to sell the fight. I'm a worse guy than Floyd Mayweather. Again, if I were him, I would have played the other shtick and said, I'm a better guy than Floyd Mayweather. That would make the fight more interesting and easier to sell. Now what you're going to be selling is really two despicable characters. That could, to me, short-circuit this or have it not reach the financial potential. It could if one of these guys was in a different lane. But having said that, I think both of them, and Conor certainly at this time, so fascinating that the fight will happen. It will make sense. I'm not sure if it'll make as much money as the last one, but I don't know if it has to in order to satisfy Floyd and or Conor McGregor.
Listen, I agree with you. I think you kind of need a good guy and a bad guy. Conor should have played that role. I don't know how much of this was a marketing ploy and how much this was just Conor making a very stupid mistake. I think for Conor, he has kind of created this character of Conor McGregor of being the gangster guy and showing up in the mink coat and kind of being the bad guy, the guy who talks trash. He kind of thinks he's that character now.
Yeah, he's gone from playing it to being it.
Absolutely, and that's a big mistake. And I think hopefully he learns from this. Going to court, he's going to find out really quickly it's a great way to lose a lot of money.
Did you think it was a stunt?
No, I don't. I do think, look, if we buy into the character, Conor's a hard-living guy. And so he hung over, whatever, just when you ingest alcohol or other chemicals, you're a little off your square. And you can snap like that. And so, no, I don't think it was staged. I think it was an authentic thing from Conor.
Couldn't I argue, though, that every sport needs a lane? Like football is the sport we gamble and watch on TV. Baseball's an older demographic with golf. UFC's been in a fight its entire life. McCain wanted to knock it off cable. Right. Boxing wanted to squish it. I could make the argument it's the bad boy sport.
No, it's the Sons of Anarchy.
And Conor is the baddest of the bad boys. So, I watched this moment and I was like, I thought about it a lot for 2 days and I'm like, I don't know. It seems to me that kind of plays to UFC's brand. We're the outsider. We're the rebel. We got the craziest guy in sports. I think it helped the sport.
Do we think as a plan B, how big is Conor versus Khabib?
It's not as big as him versus Floyd, as far as buys, but I think it'd be a huge fight. Yeah. Obviously, we have an even juicier story now. Khabib is undefeated. He has the kind of stone cold Russian thing going on. Obviously they hate each other. Yeah, exactly. And imagine that fight in Russia. I mean, that's Rocky IV all over again.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because that isn't two villains. That is the stoic Russian and the wild Irishman. Right. Now, that is marketable. To me, that fight gets me to a TV.
To someone you probably won't see in the octagon anytime soon, Ronda Rousey, who won her first ever WWE match last night at WrestleMania 34. After the match, Rousey took time to reflect on her career in UFC, saying, quote, "I thought I would never say this, but I'm so happy I got my brains beat in." I'm so happy I lost those fights to Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes because it led me here. This is so worth it. Cowherd, will Rousey be a bigger star in the WWE than in the UFC?
Yeah, because she'll have a longer career. She's athletic, she's attractive, she's popular, and UFC, let's be honest, it's hard. And what I've seen from a lot of the female champions, they pop, then they lose, and then they ask themselves, wow, this is painful. This is hard. This is hard for big physical men. And I watch her here and I'm like, oh, she's a star. She's athletic. I mean, you're watching her rattle off those punches. She's an attractive person. She's got a brand. When I watch this, I'm like, oh, okay, that's going to be 12 years. I think the UFC, it's hard to last 6 years. You have to be committed, tough, get lucky, get breaks.
Biggest fish in the UFC ocean, not in the WWE. Again, she was the face of MMA and UFC. Briefly. Again, she'll never be the face of the WWE. Never.
Even in the women's division?
Never be the...
They said that in the UFC, too. I mean, here's the thing. I think that you spend years and years trying to develop these characters of being that bad person, the tough person in the WWE. She already has it. She's legitimized herself as a tough person, as a former champion in the UFC. She was the baddest woman on the planet for many years, considered anyway, right? And now she just brings that reputation over the WWE. She doesn't have to develop that character anymore. She's bringing in all those UFC fans over, and it's just going to double when she's in the WWE. I think she could be huge.
WWE, as hard as you think the UFC is, the WWE is like 200 shows.
No, the travel in wrestling
it's brutal.
It is ridiculous. Yeah. It's worse than baseball.
Yeah.
But would you rather get punched in the face for $1 or come off the ropes for $1? I'd rather come off the ropes. I can live with plane flights. How many times do you want to get punched? How many 20-year careers are there in UFC? It's hard.
Listen, and I want to be careful here because I don't want to sound sexist or whatever, but I just go, being, part of her appeal in the UFC was her attractiveness. When she goes over to the WWE, she's not the most attractive person in the WWE. All of those women she'll be fighting there meet American beauty standards and exceed them. And so again, I just don't think she'll be a nice little addition to the WWE, but their business won't be built around Ronda the way that the UFC was building a business model around her. I just don't think that'll ever happen.
But in fairness, outside of maybe one guy every 5 years, John Cena, WWE's always been about wrestling. They don't want stars to own it. We've had about 7 guys who have been the guy. Hulk. Andre the Giant was great. He wasn't the guy. Stone Cold. Goldberg. Brock. So she's going to be a popular wrestler. That is a really good life.
Yeah.
I mean, there's about one superstar and maybe 2 a decade. Roman Reigns now is the big guy.
She's already sold the character. That's the beauty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, time for last call. Another day, another city putting up a billboard to lure soon-to-be free agent LeBron James. This time it's New York. LeBron once called himself the king of New York. This billboard challenges him to, quote, prove it. Colin, do Knicks fans look pathetic here?
Yeah, because not only do you have no chance, you weren't even the first to come up with the idea. What are you, the 5th? I mean, New York's known for its innovation and big.
Why do you say the Knicks have no chance? They're the Knicks.
He's going to play with injury prone.
No chance? I think anything's a possibility. All right, let's move to the Angels. Shohei Ohtani, who is shaping up to be the best two-way player since Babe Ruth. Yesterday, he tossed 12 Ks in 7 shutout innings. On top of that, he's hit 3 homers in his 18 at-bats this season. He's now the favorite to win the AL MVP, according to one Vegas sportsbook. Colin, are you starting to buy the hype here?
Yeah, I knew he could pitch. I'd seen YouTube videos. I mean, all you had to do was see his velocity. So you knew he could pitch in the majors. I didn't think he could hit. I mean, spring training, he was horrible. So now I get not only a hitter, Jason, but a power hitter. If Clayton Kershaw hit 40 jacks, I'm surprised this isn't a bigger story.
No, it's a huge story, and I was someone very skeptical and like, why is he trying to do both? He's coming to the major leagues. No way he can do both. What makes this guy think he's Babe Ruth? And I got to say, that's my American arrogance, I think, and this guy is blowing it up in my face and everybody's face.
I'm surprised. If Clayton Kershaw could bat 4th for the Dodgers, it'd be the story of the decade. This is incredible, right?
Again, there are some that are like, this is Fernando Mania. Remember Fernando Valenzuela?
Yeah.
And we thought he was going to be the next Cy Young.